Hi, everybody. Welcome for It's Time for You to Rewrite Your Life. My name is Raphael, and I love to help people rewrite their life. And I'm with Connie Habash, and she is not a client. She's a good friend, and she's a fellow coach. And she does these wonderful retreats on the West Coast. I would love to go to your retreat on Mount Shasta and all those other places. But I like to help people start over, and that's what I do, like myself, doing my next 60 years to refire, not retire, right? And
Ah,
also to raise the consciousness and frequency of humanity as we welcome them into the spiritually new evolved era, the new dimension, as some of our friends like to call it. And one thing about entering the new dimension, Connie, I think is so important. Why I love having you here today is to hear you talk about being present, which is a very powerful art. What does that mean, living in the present?
I learned the practice of presence from one of my teachers, Leonard Jacobson, and then I kind of took it in um, as my own as a practice for myself because it's just really there's no other life other than the present moment. This is the only place that we can live our lives.
That's
Um,
right.
yeah, exactly. You can't go back to the past and redo it. You can't live in the future. You can
Hmm.
only live in the here and now, and how you live in the here and now will affect what unfolds as we move into the future, but we never actually are in the future. We're always here in the present. But I define presence as bringing our awareness and attention into the present moment with an open heart and a quiet mind, um, which sounds like a tall order, to quiet our mind. But
It is.
it's not to perfectly silence it, but rather to redirect our attention to here rather than putting our attention on the thoughts that are going on in our mind. And as we practice that more, to being present with anything, but like you said, nature is one of the best ways that I can become really fully present. Um, that the mind becomes more and more quiet, and especially as our heart is open, just receptive, being fully receptive to what is here right now. We don't have to like everything that's here right now, but to be receptive to it means that we are accepting what is and open to responding to it in this moment appropriately.
Appropriately. I love that. And yeah, I love Leonard Jacobson. When I met you 3 years ago, we did a podcast together. I also was meeting with Leonard Jacobson and did a podcast with him. And he's amazing because what amazes me about him is he can go on for he all he talks about is the depth of being in the present moment. And that's crucial because most people in our cultures don't understand how powerful it is and how deep it is. As we look at what Peter Sage would call the three levels of understanding, of learning, the first is, let me get rid of that. Something popped up. The first level of understanding or learning is to know something. And he calls that the war cry of failure when people go, oh, I know, I know, I know. I know how to meditate, I know how to be present, but they're not being present. The second level is taking it in emotionally and feeling it. And the third level is actually enacting it and being it. And so that's why being present is so deep. And sometimes you talked about we don't always like what's going on at the moment. We don't have to like it. That's outside circumstances, right? We can't always change. But what I think, Connie, that a lot of people don't understand, it took me a lifetime to learn is that the inside, I always suspected the inner world controls the outer. And so being present has such a powerful effect on what's going to happen to us, what we're going through. And of course,
Absolutely.
whether we're learning the lessons or not, if they need to be repeated. So, what are the different ways of being present? You talked about, being in nature.
Well, I mean, you can be present with anything.
Mhm.
You could be present with, a pen. You can be, it's really learning how to bring our consciousness right here to what is. And without we were talking about, you don't have to like what is present here. It transcends likes and dislikes. It transcends the judging mind, that's always like, I like this, I don't like this, I want to do this, I don't want to do this. I feel like this, I don't feel like that. It brings us to what is actually happening here. Who am I actually really here, without thoughts, with my heart open, and comes into that quiet internal space that allows infinite possibilities to unfold. When we're really present and the mind is not telling the story about how it is, it's really being here without is, then we can be open to all kinds of possibilities, perhaps creating possibilities from that state of presence. But a lot of times what we're doing, as I know Raphael, is that we're creating by the constant stories that we tell ourselves about everything over and over and over. And so then we're constantly perceiving through those perceptions, through those stories, through that way of looking at things, through those beliefs. And presence helps us step out of that whole experience to see what really is, and beyond the level that we're used to perceiving. We don't really usually see what actually is within ourselves or within others or within nature. We're seeing our stories projected on everything.
Mm. I love having friends visit the ranch here who, to some degree, have grown out of what I used to call the 3D, the third dimension, which I define as using our five senses. And you can use your five senses. Anybody can learn to be present, and that's a start. And you use your five senses, taste, sight, hearing, touch, smell, and then you can learn to be present. And when you do that, and when you learn to get out of your head, I love the way Neil Walsh puts it. He says, we talked about talking to God and talking to hear what she has to say. People ask him, "Are you out of your mind?" He says, "Yep." He gets out of his mind
Exactly
to
where I
be,
want to be is not in my mind.
yeah, exactly. And when I was going through my experience with the South Koreans and working with the very powerful Ilchi Lee, the leader of the International Santao, in when I worked with him in Sedona, that's where I met Neil. But he was teaching us to be present and doing certain practices. And now we're looking at the depth of being in the present moment. For example, doing brainwave vibration to engage our pineal. I mean, that's when things had already started happening to me, visitations and whatnot, but things really started happening. Um, and the important thing I want to point out is, and you use such beautiful um, you're talking about beliefs and perceptions. My experience has been when we change our beliefs, our perceptions change. I've literally seen people see different things when we work on their belief systems. What they're actually seeing with their five senses will actually, um, as Ilchi would put it, their next five senses.
Hmm.
Yeah, folks, we have another five senses that we can use that are actually more powerful than these because our inner world is creating our outer world. It's funny. If you be present, that I was learning to be more present with the Koreans. And at the same time, something happened. And folks, everything that happens to you in life is for a reason, right, Connie? It's part of our experience, and not to judge it, but to accept it and be present and see. If you're present, you can see why it's really happening. What happened to me was my partner, Anna Makari from Italy, who was assigned as my assistant, and we lived together for some years, and she was dying from something that happened in her childhood. And so she's going through this process of having worse and worse seizures, and she's going through her journey, and nobody could change that. But in being with her and being um, put into the role of caretaker, I had to be extremely present. And what happened to me? was my already quick responses, my reactions became even quicker. So if she started to fall, I would grab her without even realizing it, you know? So I became extremely present. And it wasn't, and I know I've talked to you about this before. It wasn't until the day that after she died, I was having some very powerful experience. She visited me the next morning and showed me the dark and the light. But it was maybe a week later, I was still not in my mind. See, I
Hmm.
had become so used to not being in my mind. I went down to the orchard, to my garden, and I saw what I would like to share later about the power of being present is I saw the energy field of the earth, and we are all of the same energy. I literally saw what seemed like with my five senses, with my sight, everything was just glowing with like pixelation, I think they call it in computer language. Um,
Yeah.
I saw that we were all of the same energy, and that's very important. And I'll tell you why later, because you can engage in that field and heal yourself. And so I know you spend a lot of time in the forest. You take a women's retreat up to Mount Shasta.
Yes.
Makes me wish I was a woman. Might see me in a wig. I mean, that's a tremendous place. I've had some experiences there while in television, while doing a doc. But tell me about that, the experience of being out of your mind and being in nature, being out of your mind.
Oh, yeah, you brought up senses, and I think that's the easiest way for people to
Mhm.
access presence is coming into what are you smelling? What are you seeing? What are you hearing, etc. I think it's like you were saying, that's the entry point, and that can really bring us in, and out in nature is so perfect for that because it's all sensory, right? And everything in nature, except for humans, is fully present. The trees, the plants, they're all, I know, like,
And most of
what's
the
taking us so
animals,
long? They're
yeah, a
all
lot of
fully
the
present.
animals too.
Yes, the animals are fully present because it's also for their survival,
Mm.
like and you'll notice like if you observe a deer, for example, they'll be just grazing and very present with that, and then suddenly they hear something, and so they become very hyper, aware and present with that. But unlike human beings, when they recognize it's not there, they go back to grazing and they're fully present with grazing. Whereas humans tend to, now we're going to start ruminating, now we're going to start worrying, now we're going to start projecting what that could have been, or is it still there, right? And then, we do that with all kinds of things in our lives, and we get caught and carried away by that. But learning from the deer, they go right back to grazing the grass unless there's something else that brings them into a different awareness of pay attention, back to grazing. So all animals, plants, trees, they are present in the moment, and we can learn so much from that. And then, as you say, Raphael, like when there's the senses are the entry point, but there's also a subtle story that we tell with the senses too. Like, oh, I'm smelling jasmine. That's the smell of jasmine. And then our identifications with that, that one of the next levels of presence is experiencing that without labeling it as smell
Mm.
of jasmine, but experiencing the vibe. Smell is actually a vibration, so sound, right? So is light is both a wave and a particle. So experiencing that without our labels on, oh, I'm hearing a bird, I'm hearing a chickadee, like, then how about stepping, if you're wanting to be a naturalist, of course you're paying attention to the species and the behavior. But if you're wanting to be present, letting yourself receive that experience of that sound and letting go of the labels around it.
Right. That is so important. I mean, it's like if we were to do another podcast about identity, what we believe about ourselves. I love going to like recovery groups, and even though I know nothing about drugs, luckily, um, and telling them you don't have to accept those labels on yourself. Labels are put on with Velcro, not super glue. You know, and you can let go of any labels. And I always ask them, who are you? What are you? Who are you? Oh, I'm a father. I'm a person in recovery. You know, take those labels off. So being in the present, I was told by one of my guides to stop judging my experience and have appreciation and gratitude for it. Gratitude, isn't that a powerful tool, Connie, in being
Absolutely.
present?
Yes, and like you said, like shifting your vibration, shifting your energy. I mean, gratitude, on a more mundane level, there's been research that has shown that it alleviates depression. It changes our internal experience, and gratitude is like the when we are, especially when we're grateful for what's not yet here. We're grateful for that, new job, or grateful for the
Oh,
experience of enlightenment. We're actually creating a sense and experience of it already being here within us, and we're already getting the um, the benefits of having already received that through our feelings of
Connie let the cat out of
grateful.
the bag on manifestation.
Well,
You
and
dropped the
and
secret.
that's very much like what many teachers teach, right? Like Joe Dispenza, that's very much about his work is like, allowing yourself to experience and cultivate the feeling of what you want to create. And that naturally starts to shift your energy to be in alignment with that, which
And
brings
we
it
can
about.
talk about that sometime. I mean, we could. I'd love to do a podcast with that with the different people, as you know, basically the secret and why it works and why it doesn't work for most
Exactly. Yeah, we
people.
could go off on that,
Yeah.
but we'll probably not go off on that today. But back to presence.
Hmm.
It's also it just helps calm our nervous system. Our nervous system is so agitated constantly by, like I know you mentioned in the description of our talk today, which is a big thing for you, is media, but and then all of our stories that we tell, and we tend to tell stories of fear and worry and anxiety. And when we shift ourselves back to like right here now, and right here now as I'm present, I recognize that this moment is okay. This moment is usually safe. And when it isn't, we become like the deer. We become alert. We just respond appropriately. When we learn to be present, we can actually respond better to crises. We
Yes.
might think, oh no, if I'm constantly preparing myself and making myself worried and anxious, like the anticipatory, like I've got to prepare for all the awful things that could happen, that actually, runs us down both physically. It overstimulates our adrenals. The adrenals get fried. They don't operate correctly when we're in a crisis. The nervous system is constantly over amped. So our body doesn't get to restore the way it should, and of course our mind doesn't get to experience any ease, and all of that is necessary, the restoration of our body, our nervous system, the calm and ease of our mind, in order to be able to respond well when there actually is a crisis. So like, again, back to the deer, like the fact that they can relax back into the moment and just focus on grazing. Horses do this too, which I'm sure you know, allows them to actually more effectively respond when they do need to like bolt or something like that.
So,
So it's
folks, what we're talking about, I mean, technically, is being into the amygdala, which is the part of our brain which is fight, flight,
yeah,
freeze, or fawn, and another F words. But being in your amygdala and being in a state of anxiety, you're not going to respond well. Now, my friends some of my fellows who have been in special forces and other, I hate to say military applications, even, they teach you breathing techniques and even balancing the brain. Right brain controls the left side of your body, left brain controls the right side of your body. Balancing, we call that crossovers or whatever, to balance your brain to be able to enter a situation. Yeah, horses are, they call them prey animals. I
exactly.
love
Right.
horses because I can go down anytime. And right now we've got Molly and Slim. and they'll look at me and I can tell where I am by how they respond. If I'm not being present, then they're going to shy away from me. But
Exactly.
if I'm feeling gratitude for the moment, they're going to come to me.
Yes, horses are such good teachers that way. I know both of us could go on about that. They feel our energy, and they require authenticity, you know, to be fully present. And if you aren't fully present and you're feeling, say, an emotion like fear or sadness, then then be real and authentic with a horse about that. Like, okay, I'm feeling sad today. This is what I'm experiencing. And then they'll trust you because what they're looking for is congruence. Like, are they behaving congruent to what they I can feel that they're feeling.
Energy filled. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly,
I call
exactly.
that authenticity.
Right, right. And they can tell if you're being fake or you're not like then they won't want to trust you, right? Just the way we are that way too, but we often override those feelings or tend to we don't may not even be aware, consciously aware that we're picking up on things, but we're picking up on people's energy all the time, and we can feel when someone's fake or incongruent, like they're behaving or smiling, but I can feel like that's not what's really going on, and we trust people more who are matching what their internal state is. Otherwise, we might think, well, what are they hiding, or what are they really about, you know?
You're dropping so many tips, and I mean, I got to rewatch this. You're dropping so many tips, so much value here about which can help people can, our viewers can help focus on the power of being present, not forcing something, power over force, the power, a lot of the art of being present. You're showing some great tips here about why being present is going to take you deeper into your power. If I may, can I take a moment and share a recent experience with you? Because
Please.
one of the great benefits to me of being present is physically healing. And I was taught that, I guess, working with the Koreans and over our life, we learn these things, but how we can physically heal ourselves by tapping into the energy of where we are. I've mentioned that we are all of the same energy, or maybe I didn't, but when I saw that in the garden, when I raised up, looked up at everything and I saw the front of my hands, they were pixelated too. We're of the same energy in this physical dense universe. um, of the particle, not of the wave, which is different. But anyway, so a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago, Brenda and she did a family reunion with the Dene Zuni tribe with some of her members, some of her cousin clan from the Dene land, which is not, we call them Navajo, right? But we're up in the Apache Mountains up here, and we're about elevation almost 9,000. And we're in the very deep, I mean, we drove for hours into the deep mountain forest. And she went to the lake with her, meet her family. And I took off like I like to do and just went hiking. And I went where the creek comes out of the lake and into the forest. And this is a forest which is probably not, doesn't see a lot of human activity. And I went into the forest and I stopped on the hillside and I did one of the many tools that we teach people as coaches. I did a brainwave vibration practice to engage my pineal and just being present. And I'm standing there, Connie, on the side of the hillside overlooking where I went down the rocky ridge into the canyon, across the creek, and up the other side. I'm standing in this steep slope meadow and I'm feeling the tree. I'm looking at the trees and the creek down below and the blue sky and the white clouds. And I started feeling the energy of the trees. It's interesting when we left northern Arizona and we vacationed up in Washington in the rainforest. Brenda was saying when we went into the forest, she was saying, "There's so much energy here. The energy is so strong." I'm like, "Wow! I'm so glad I'm with a partner who can feel that, who appreciates that, that there actually is an energy field. So I'm there on the side of the hill and I started feeling the energy in my body all around me. We can integrate with that energy, right? Isn't that what part of what you teach, Connie?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Connecting to that energy, honoring that energy, and developing the ability, as you're talking about, to sense it and experience it. I mean, it's making me think of like when I enter a forest, or when I enter, especially when I enter a new land that I haven't been to, I take some time to pause and feel the energy there and honor it, and pay my respects and ask for permission to enter and to connect with the beings there. When we're present, we, like you were saying, we realize that everything is alive with the same divine energy, just in different forms. It was like when you were talking about pixelated, I was remembering reading Jill Bolte Taylor's book, My Stroke of Insight. I don't know if you ever read it, but it's fantastic. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, she had a stroke on the left side of her brain, so the right brain was up. And of course, then she perceived everything differently. Everything is energy, because the left brain is the one that's putting everything to categories, and you know. But at any rate, yeah, connecting with the energy of everything that is, and that includes the rocks, that includes the soil, the flowing creek. And when we become present, we start to feel and connect to that kind of energy. And I want to go back to, again, different ways of practicing presence. I think the easiest way, or the most, let's put it this way, the most accessible is with our own breath, because it's always here, right? We may not always be able to be out in nature, but we're always breathing, we hope. um, and so, like, feeling the experience and the sensations of the inhalation and exhalation, I find, is a wonderful way to become present. And the same thing with like body sensations and our emotions. But the trick there is, again, with quiet mind, open heart, right? So opening the heart, being receptive to, this is how my breath is right now, or this is the emotion I'm experiencing right now. Because we have a tendency to, like, oh, I want to feel this emotion, I don't want to feel that one. But letting all of it be experienced and felt because it's here, and then trying not to go into the story about it, not, or the labels about it, like, oh, this is sadness, and it's awful, and I get stuck in this so much, and it's about this situation and that. No, how about just feel the physical experience of that, trying not to label it, and letting yourself be present with it fully. And that really transforms the experience of emotions and sensations, and our own breath.
And then eventually, and this is kind of like my promise to people, is that eventually when we practice that, and the more we practice it, and don't ever stop. It's like, don't say, I know, I know, I know, I do that, no, keep going. Keep going. It never stops, this growing process. Eventually you can get to the point where, and this is what I want to share, when I stood on that hillside, I forgot something. I mean, I knew it intellectually, but I wasn't engaging with the healing process of
Hmm.
engaging with the energy field, because, about when just after I did the podcast with you and Leonard Jacobson and everybody about 3 years ago when I did the summit, I after that I fell rock climbing. I took a client to the hospital, and I was climbing up a mesa, and I was in my head. I wasn't paying attention. And it's not a good idea when you're rock climbing, even though I've been doing it all
Oh
my
yeah.
life. It's like, I know, I know. I know what I'm doing. Ah! And I fell, and I'm lucky I didn't kill myself, but I did a lot of damage. And I was told that I may lose the use of my legs if I don't get medical attention. And I said, no, thank you. Bye. I mean, I was trained as a healer, and I knew I could heal myself better than any pharmaceutical doctors can. I'm probably get arrested for saying that. And so, I mean, lose my license as a nutritional health coach. But the other thing is, I was in a, you Valentine's Day. I For whatever reason, I know why. I attracted this. I know why this happened. It's okay. But I was hit by another car about 65 miles an hour. And goodbye, my new truck, my new Toyota Tacoma. I got spun into the woods. And I understand what was going on at the time, why it happened, where I created, helped create that, co-created, because we're always co-creating, right? But I needed to heal myself. I went to the doctors and they told me this and that. And because I was taken to the hospital, and I finally told them, I know my rights. I demand you untake me from this board with whiplash and probably broken neck. And I went home and I began to heal myself because I know I can.
Mm,
And thank you, all our wonderful teachers. Thank you, Connie, for all the people you're going to help, to heal themselves. And when I was at those mountains, I remembered, but I took it a little step further, um, learning that people are trying to engage here. I see there's a problem with the participation, but I took it a little further in by taking that energy field around me and integrating with it, and we can heal our body. And
mm,
okay, now I can see where I've got blockages. You see, in America, we've been taught in other countries that where they're called diseases when they're really just symptoms of a condition. And it's our body trying to tell us something. And and like for example, Ilchi Lee with South Koreans always told us that they're not diseases. They call them blockages in our body. So I've got some damage to my feet. I've got some damage to my nerves. Well, I fell on my left buttock, and apparently that we keep a lot of nerve centers there, and I did a lot of damage to my nervous system. And so my legs and feet were swelling up and going numb. And so I dealt with that. I got different positions, sleeping tiger number two, that you do for half an hour, and pushing the blockages through my body and other practices. And I just remembered the more it's so easy to heal yourself when you integrate with the energy. We are all one. That is the fourth level of consciousness where you become one as me with the universe. And I think don't you agree, Connie? I know that you understand what I mean when I say how important it is as we move forward right now in these times being controlled by media, as if things are getting worse, but things have always been dense on this, dense planet on the outskirts of the galaxy. But it's very important now. It's time for us to move forward into our spiritual nature, and we start that by being present. Now, what's a recent experience of yours where you've used the power of being present, where you've grown beyond the learning, I mean, the initial learning to change, to manifest your life or to heal yourself or something?
well, I mean, I think my experiences with present, especially recently, have been um, a lot related to what you're talking about with media and everything. Raphael is trying to shift myself out of the worrying mind or the thinking about what's going on out there. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't take some appropriate actions to help with, say, restoring the land near where you live, or contacting a legislature to try to a legislator to try to protect an area, etc., things like that. But it's very easy for us to get caught up in telling all the awful stories because that's what the media will feed us, because that's what gets people to watch, and that gets our nervous systems going, and when we're in that state we consume more media.
And that is
So
their job, to affect your amygdala. It's not to tell you the
exactly.
news, folks.
Exactly. Right. So for me, a lot of it is like, okay, acknowledge that's going on. I might do a prayer for that or a visualization of how I want things to unfold or for the highest good of everyone. And then coming back to, right here, right now, and what I just felt my whole nervous system calm down when I brought myself back to here and now, um, and what, how, who can I be here in this present moment that's going to have the most powerful effect on the well-being of others and the planet. Getting into all of that and watching it endlessly and chatting with people about it on social media and all that probably isn't going to have as much effect as me being here and present and then serving the next person that I'm with fully, or attending to the plants that I've been caring for out on our street, or taking some action to help my local forest nearby, or just creating my well-being by being here in the present moment so that I can be a good friend, a good parent, a good partner, etc. So,
Another huge tip that Connie just dropped, folks, is
and
being your authentic self.
like you were saying, Raphael, it's a constant practice. This is not like a, oh, when do I get to where I don't have to do it anymore? It's like, okay, well, when are you going to stop breathing? I mean, you've been breathing for years and years and years. You've already mastered it. Why do you have to keep doing it? Or eating or pooping, right? Like, like
Yeah.
we have to keep doing those things because that is essential to living in a body. So essential to living as our highest and best self while we're here in this incarnation, and to realizing our divine nature is the constant practice of presence, and maybe other spiritual practices like you talked about, connecting with and opening the pineal gland and awakening that. We could talk about all those other things too, but presence. I would like to see the practice of presence is just as essential as our breathing and our eating and our relieving ourselves in the bathroom, because
It
it's
is.
it's, it's
So you're
really
talking
important.
about our existence, our experience here is being is growth centric, not comfort centric, right? Not eating Cheetos in front of Netflix. No, when I left media, when I left ABC, sorry ABC, I threw my I'm not I'm not partial. I think it's all bad. I threw I threw my TV out the window. Yeah, my landlord up in Alaska got a little pissed off at me about that. But and I never went back. I never watched television again. So you're talking about a growth centric experience, not a comfort centric. It keeps going.
Mhm. Yes, as you said, television. It reminded me my friend Denzel Santana, who is he's a teacher and spiritual leader. He calls it tell a vision, right? It's always telling us a vision rather than us
Uh,
creating our own vision of how we want to live and who we want to be and how we want our world to be. So let's stop having something tell us a vision, and let's be our own creators, our own co-creators.
Beautiful. I don't remember hearing that. That's wonderful. And do you remember, folks? I mean, I do because I was there, but back in the late 60s, the television was referred to by some scientists as the boob tube for a
Right?
reason, because
Yes.
it shuts down your cognitive synapses, literally your
Yes.
electrical firing and your ability to grow myelin, which is, greatly enhances your brain capacity to do many things, inner and outer. So yeah, you're dropping some a lot of I love the way you're focusing on practical application here. And I get real passionate when I tell people I'm more I'm totally I'm a lot right brained. I'm both analytical. Your right brain is creative and your left brain's
Me too.
analytical, like you mentioned. But I'm kind of balanced. But I ever since I was a little boy, for example, I always saw things in color. I would see things in color. Of course, I saw a lot of things other people didn't see. But and I was punished and called a liar and all that for seeing people that other people didn't see. But I would see things in color. I see, the energy of things. And I was told years ago by a Korean master, I don't know what I was going through at the time, but he seemed to be looking at me in the group and he said, everybody can tell what you're doing. You can't hide who you are and what you're doing. And I've learned that over the years with practice. I mean, to the point where I've literally, I'll just a moment of vulnerability here. I've literally called the police on a gentleman who walked by me in a store because I knew that something was very, very wrong. And boy, were they looking for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
So
boy,
you
did
picked up
they
on it
have a,
immediately. Yes.
yeah. And I've seen that, and I have a desire more to grow my practice like you are so dedicated to growing your practice. I've always been told by the South Koreans that I was told, discipline, Raphael, it's always been your problem. And it's true. I am a master distractor and procrastinator. Of course, I've got an animal rescue and, the orchard and the greenhouse, and I love my place. But to take the time out, right, Connie, and then to learn naturally to imbibe this, like you say, breathing through all your day. For some of us, we've been taught to breathe. I go through my day, I breathe through my nose into my belly, so it goes all the way down, and I breathe out my mouth. And as I breathe out, I tell myself, drop my shoulders. I am so used to doing that for years that it affects my energy, especially when I forget to do it, right? But we go through our
Absolutely.
day. And it's not like, okay, I'm going to take 10 minutes practicing being present. I promise. Well, yeah, that's a start. But it's something that we can integrate into our lives, right?
It can be, yeah. I mean, it could be in any moment, right? It can be how we're walking down the hall to the bathroom. Am I being present with the sensation of the carpet or the wood floor underneath my feet and my breath and just everything is an opportunity to be present. And we may not be present 100% of the time and don't put that pressure or expectation on you, but there's opportunities all the time to become present. And even with, taking the trash out to the curb, all the ordinary moments actually offer us so much. And we tend to dismiss them, right? We tend to, like, transitions. I talk about transitions a lot because a lot of life is transitions, right? Driving from here to there, going from here downstairs, um, and in yoga, like moving into and out of a pose. And that's when people tend to go unconscious, is in the transition, right? You're driving down the freeway and you're like, I don't even remember the last three exits because we're not
Mhm.
present.
Yeah.
And I mean, it happens to all of us, right? And again, like, not to make yourself pressured to have to be absolutely present in every single moment, but every moment gives us that gift and that opportunity to really be fully there. And when we are, we gain more mastery over our mind because, like you were saying, Raphael, our minds are can easily get distracted, right? So this is training our mind, developing that ability to not get pulled into the distractions, but to really be right here and with what is right here and what I doing here, what am I experiencing here.
Right now, right here is the most
Mhm.
important moment. And you dropped another, well, a bunch of tips there. But when you started the last statement, you were talking about how every moment is an opportunity. And I want to say that to everybody. I want to point out that yes, every moment is you don't have to wait. You don't have to look. It's like we have a flashlight and we're in a dark room. We're looking. What are you looking for? I'm looking for the light. We have it.
Right, right. Yeah,
It
and
never stops.
to not dismiss those ordinary moments, like, I'm brushing my teeth, this doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
no, actually, if we can be fully present with that, we start to experience things differently. And it's not going to happen the first time you're fully present brushing your teeth, probably, but that's okay. Like, and you think about, the more that you are present with the ordinary, the more you're going to be able to become fully present with quiet mind, open heart, and start to experience your life differently, outside of the story and outside of the media and outside of what people tell you should be, right?
Wow. And I have another promise for you. If you learn to be present and really be here now and get rid of your TV and your radio and I mean, except music. Music is okay. Yeah, I mean, because you can be in the moment, get the message. But I've got to tell you, one thing I've learned years ago, life, real life here and now is so much more interesting and more bizarre than any movie you could watch. I mean, wow. I remember when I was a little boy and the first movies were come out, the first science fiction movies, Star Wars, and of course, the first one was 2001 Space
Right, right,
Odyssey.
right.
You know, what I experienced and my brothers and we're looking at because I was saying things and oh, I know how they did that. What I was experiencing was deja vu. And when I talk to people nowadays, a big threat to some and a promise to a lot. And I feel myself distancing from some of my more billionaire friends who are really push coaches who are pushing AI, right? Um,
Oh, let's not get started on
yeah,
that.
let's not go. All
Although
I can say is,
I did actually think I wanted to say a little something about that
yeah,
because I think one of the things, there's many things that come up for me about AI, but just one of them is like this belief that we aren't already enough as human beings and that we don't already have enough, that we need like AI to help us be more creative or do this. And I mean, I know it does make it much more efficient, but for example, people turning to AI as companions, right? Um, and they can choose to do that. But my thought is, and I know you experience this too, we have a gazillion divine beings waiting here, ready to assist us, waiting to connect to us, happy to share their wisdom and their messages if we would only learn to listen to them, and we can listen to them through the opening of our own heart and the quieting of our mind, and inviting that forward. And whether and it doesn't even matter whether it's a spirit guide that's different than you or your own higher self. You can access that by training yourself to become present so that you can start to hear the deeper wisdom and the higher truths that are wanting to emerge forth from your own consciousness. We don't need
beautiful.
to turn to AI to get that. It's in here. But yes, it does take more effort. We're living in an era that's like, if it isn't a pill and a quick fix, I'm not interested. I don't want to do the work. Well, yeah, it does take the work. It does take the commitment.
Yes,
But then that's reclaiming your power. That work that we do to cultivate that is reclaiming our power rather than giving our power over to a pill, someone outside of us, AI, whatever it is. Like, we have the power within us, but it takes power to gain power. We need to use our power of focus and attention and commitment, and kindness and self-compassion.
and it is not
Really
only
please
worth
get
it, folks, but it's the only true way. And, as I've been told for years by some of my guides, I mean, some of my teachers, human teachers, is that, basically in our cultures, they want three things: a pill to make them feel better, um, something better to eat, and to be entertained. That is not why you're here, folks.
No, it's
That
not.
is not your destiny.
Not why.
And your life will never change, and your next life and your next life, things aren't going to change. Whatever you believe, it doesn't matter. These aren't
And
about beliefs, they're about experience. And that's huge what you just said about turning to AI for a companion. That is the biggest problem because um, I'd like to, I'm going to sound like Kevin Trudeau here or Peter Sage as the parasitical elite who are running this world, want you to turn to AI. They want to keep you enslaved. They want to keep you from growing because they want to stay in control. Okay, there's a conspiracy theory there that I'm sorry, but I know these people, you know, and I would like to see everybody dedicate themselves to themselves, their growth. And which brings us back to what you mentioned, Connie, is about the best way. And I asked my spirit guide, I call her Uthira or Uttara, I'm not sure. I think something's lost in the translation. One of my guides, I asked her, what's the best way I can help? And Alina Chapman, actually, I did something I've never done on a podcast before. I let somebody channel the Council of Light, as she calls, and I got the same message from her is that the best way we can help others is to be an example, is to be
Mm,
there. And that's what you were talking about,
mhm.
is to be there for them. Truly be here. Be there,
Absolutely.
be here, be
That's what,
present.
I mean, isn't that what people long for the most in their relationships is people
Yeah,
who are really present with them, who are not
right.
off thinking about something else or thinking about what they want to say as soon as they get a moment to interject it or whatever it is, but someone who's really really here with
Yeah.
open heart and quiet mind, being with you, seeing you, journeying with you. And what I would say, what I wanted to say before we ran out of time today, is that when we're really present, presence is love. And I think you were describing that when you were seeing that beautiful canyon and the blue sky and the forest and everything. Is when we're so fully present, we cannot help but feel love because we feel when we're present, we're connected. We feel connected to the everything that is. And when we feel that sense of connection, love naturally arises. So presence is love. And that's what we all really want. And that's what we're here for, right? Is to awaken and cultivate and become that love more and more.
That's huge. When you use the word love, I'm reminded of the word gratitude. Statistically speaking, as a internationally certified nutritional health coach, whatever, Raphael, um, statistically speaking, the people who are able to heal themselves the most in near-death situations are the people who feel gratitude, and gratitude equals love. And oh my gosh, I am learning that more and more every day. And when you feel gratitude and love, guess what? What you perceive actually changes. It actually, you see the beauty. Let me give you an example. I live out in the country and people move out here because they're trying to get away from the city, trying to get out of different areas because they think a geographical will help. And they come out here and they refer to their new home as we're out here in the middle of nowhere. We live out in the middle of nowhere. And no, I don't see it that way. I see that wherever we are standing, this is the truth, right on top of the earth. We are standing right on the very tippy top, wherever we are. And we can appreciate the beauty, and then the beauty comes out. So when I go out in the evening, when Brenda comes home from the office and she comes home and she walks out on the porch, and I love to hear the couple of times I've heard her say this. How many times do you hear people say when they look out their over their deck that I built here, I love my life. I love my home. I'm like, wow, that is so beautiful. And we go out on the deck and we sit on the swing that I built and we look out as it cools off in hot Arizona desert and it's cooling off and we look out over nature. And people tell me, Raphael, you're so lucky to be here when they go out on my back deck. But it's not luck, folks. It's a choice. It's a choice for me not to overpopulate the world, with humanity, not to, I have one child, not to kill the other species. Many species here, like coyotes, which are a beautiful species up here in northern Arizona, are considered an environment. And hunters are out there, where's the elk? Where's the bear? I go, well, you've killed them all. There used to be a lot
Right.
here. So to appreciate and feel the gratitude and love in the moment, then guess what? Wow, my life has changed over the years. My life used to be um, rental car, airplanes, and hotels. I mean, I was corporate. And you know what? I loved meeting people. I loved looking for what the Koreans call, I was looking for my soul, but I hated my life. I hated my job. I
Mm.
never learned to love myself. After I was learning yoga and training to be a yoga instructor, when I was learning yoga, after my first yoga training, the teacher goes to all the future teachers, okay, everybody hug at least three people. And I'm like, physical contact? I was terrified. I ran to the men's room. and locked myself in there and pretended I had to, stay there. And the third day I did that, there's a knock on the door. My buddy Frank is going, open the door. No, I gotta go. I gotta go. Try to unlock the door. And three guys grabbed me and dragged me out, and everybody hugged me. Why? Because
Aw.
I didn't love myself, you
Oh,
know? And just to learn to love yourself, you learn to love others. And I love, Connie, do you like doing this when women in your group are talking to each other? And this happened a number of times, and they're going, where do you meet all the nice guys? Oh, whoa, not in the bars, or whatever. And I tell them, ladies, or men, you don't need to look for love outside of yourself. You can
absolutely.
grow it in yourself and you will create. There's a huge part of being present. Connie, I am so grateful to you. I am so happy I have
I feel
friends
so
like
grateful.
you.
Do we have a couple more minutes or are we out of time?
No, we have
Okay.
all the time
Yeah.
that you need,
Well,
dear.
yeah. Well, I want to, I just, so many things you said, I'm like, pew, 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 pew. That's why I love our conversations. I want to go back to the nowhere comment. We're out in the middle of nowhere. And it makes me think of, I've been listening to a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's teachings, and he talks about how what in order to have a change of consciousness, we need to become nobody, no thing, nowhere in no time, etc. And so like there's actually a blessing in the idea of being out in the middle of nowhere. Like we're out in the space that's beyond the human labels and identifications of a place. And that's like freeing. That's a good thing. Like maybe it's good to be out in the middle of nowhere where I step out of I'm in the hotel, I'm in the airport, I'm at my work. No, I'm being. I'm here. I'm in this, like you're saying, I'm on the earth. That's a good thing to be out in the middle of nowhere. But also as you were talking about like enoughness, that is so important, and that's a revolutionary thing actually, to be willing to step into gratitude and enoughness. Lydia Violet Hartunian, who teaches the work that reconnects, which is taught by Joanna Macy. It's a way of working through our eco grief and eco anxiety so that we can feel re-energized to help the planet, because sometimes we get overwhelmed with everything that's going on. But she talks about that gratitude is a revolutionary thing, that it's counterculture, because the corporations that basically run the capitalist society, they she Joanna Macy calls it the industrial capitalist society,
Mm,
um, want us to be in lack constantly, to need more, right? That's
mhm.
consumerism is built on that. So it's revolutionary to step into gratitude and enoughness, that I have enough. I'm so grateful for what I have. I am enough. I'm so grateful for who I am. And the more we practice that, in the beginning, it may not feel true. We're in such a habit of thinking that we're lacking. We're in such a habit of telling that story to ourselves, and we're fed that constantly, right? But to start to stepping into like, no, I'm a divine being. And I came here whole and complete. And that's my
All
true
of you.
nature. It's not my mind telling me I'm not good enough or that's all conditioning. It's my true nature. And the more we practice that and step into that, and presence helps us with that, because it has us see that what is here right now is already all that is. It's already a blessing and more than enough. So it just gets me feeling so excited. And I was feeling like the progression from the practice of presence, as I was saying, has us feel connected to each other and to everything that is, and to our own self. And connection leads us to that feeling of enoughness, that there already is here right now, because I'm already feeling connected. And that leads us to gratitude for everything that is, and for this enoughness, this blessing. And that leads us automatically to feeling love for everything that is, and ourselves and each other.
And that's why I'm here right now doing these. That's why I do these podcasts, because I love connecting, especially with you, Connie, and others. But you focus on what is really important, is the actual application of our evolution, of our growth, is being present, how huge that is, how deep that is. And wow, I just want to thank you. And I want to point out that, Connie does retreats and works with people. And I understand your Mount Shasta retreats, they're always booked, aren't they? I mean, they're
Yeah,
booked out. They're,
that one's booked. I have a fall retreat coming up at Mount Madonna Center, which is in the Santa Cruz Mountains here up in the Bay
right.
Area. Really beautiful redwoods. It's a women's retreat again, and it's this year. It's about sacred play, which is coming into the spontaneous and joyful present moment. So we'll be practicing presence, and we'll be rediscovering our spontaneity and our playfulness. Play brings us joy. Play is an essential part of life, and most of us as adults, I mean, that's part of like not being present is we're missing the aliveness of being here and being spontaneous and allowing our joyful, playful self to emerge. So that's going to be happening in the fall. I just opened registration for that, and I
Okay.
think so many of us need that. So many of us need to rediscover play.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for helping the women and everybody else. Thank you so much for being here for us all, Connie. And I will put that in the post here. I'll
And I
put the
do work with
replay.
men also. I just most of my retreats
Oh
are
yeah,
women's retreats.
yeah, and yeah, you do other retreats and so and interactions. And so I will put how to get a hold of you, your website,
Great.
and whatever you want to put in there. And if people want to get a hold of me, I do breakthrough sessions, which is really just me getting to know somebody and what they want and if we're a good fit. And the way I gauge that, if somebody's not interested in growing spiritually, then I'm not interested. I know I can't help them, and I'm just going to be wasting my time. But I guess the point here is, do we, when I work with somebody, do we share the same values? I mean, I have friends who are very successful and quite celebrities, and we don't really have some of the same values which keep us from working together. And maybe that's me. I mean, I know part of that is me being judgmental and I'm growing. Hey, folks, we're all in this together. If I mean, I need to grow just as much as you do, or I should say, I want to grow just as much as you do, hopefully. So I'll show you how to get a hold of Connie in the comments below. We'll put links to her site, to her website, and how to get a hold of her and then we'll move on from here. Connie, thank you for reminding me to be present because to me and from my in wild experiences of what I call my life, which has been very incredible, that is the most important thing to me. It is the most powerful, folks, is to be present and what that will bring you. And then maybe we'll do another podcast sometimes about how you can use that, the art of manifestation, what they call the secret, why it works for some and why it does not work for over 96% of the people because they don't believe it and they don't practice it. What you're talking about, I would love to do a talk about that sometime, Connie, about, what they call manifestation,
Oh
doing a
yeah,
meditation
be
where
happy
you're
to talk about
matching
that.
the vibration of the solution, and the universe has to balance that. But you can't leave your car in park. You have to put it in drive. You have to give some avenue for the universe to give that to you. I'm sure we both had some very powerful manifestation experiences, right? So we can do a talk on that.
Mm,
Yeah. And so
okay.
meanwhile, I'm going to get my friend who's staying here and helping me with my computer figure out what I'm doing wrong with Zoom. I think people are not able to get on.
Oh,
Um,
so sorry
and
about that.
so Connie, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Raphael. It's always a joy to connect with you, and thank you for all the healing and inspiration that you offer so many people. It's wonderful, and I look forward to our next conversation. And many blessings to everyone. May you be present.
Ditto.